Good morning, Palmetto Bay. This is Michael Miller with Miami's Community News, and our guest today is Councilman Patrick Fiore from the wonderful village of Palmetto Bay. Welcome.
Always nice to be here, and near a holiday again too.
That's true.
Yes.
First of all, my condolences for your recent loss of your mother,
Thank you.
and she obviously did a very good job because you are an exceptional human being, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. She was a fiercely independent woman and battled right to the very end. She passed away last month at age 92 and, raised 3 successful boys and grandkids. So thank you.
Yep. And so here we are. All right. And what month is this? This is September 2nd.
September 2nd. Yes.
September 2nd.
Labor Day is Monday.
Yeah. Every day is Monday, 2022. Let's hear about your children.
Kids are doing very well, Mike. My daughter is a OBGYN at the University of Texas Medical Center in San Antonio, has delivered over, I don't even know, maybe 1,000 babies now. My son-in-law her husband is a flight surgeon, captain in the Air Force. He's an anesthesiologist there. He's out of Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. My son is in the cardiac care telemetry unit at Baptist and is also studying for ultrasound radiology. So all 3 of them are saving lives, and that makes me very happy.
Your mother did a good job.
She did.
So you've been serving the village of Palmetto Bay for how many years?
Almost 8 years now.
Right.
We 2010 to 2014 and 2018 up to the current time.
And you're running again for your final term?
Yeah, this is it. We're successful. This is my, there's term limits, so this is would be my final 4-year term.
And you've spent a lot of years serving the public. You're on the community council at West Kendall years ago.
For many years, for over 6.5 years, and public service is my whole life, basically, up until the kind of post. Well, I'm still working, but I mean in the private sector now. But public service has been, excuse me, my whole life. So,
there's some more over there if you want to grab some.
Yeah, we started in 2010, if you remember, knocking on 3,500 doors and won a very tight race.
So we want to know, back then, did you lose weight when you were knocking on doors?
Yes, 25 pounds.
Is that right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. So should we say neither one of us have been knocking on doors recently?
Yeah, well, I won't go there.
So yesterday was a momentous day in Miami-Dade County government, and it'll look to the future and dealing with our transportation and mobility issues, as well as our housing crisis that we're undergoing. And obviously, it's been going on for a long time. So the county passed an ordinance yesterday concerning the rapid transit zoning area. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was downtown yesterday. It did pass by 8-3, I believe. Our commissioner for our area, Commissioner Daniel Cohen-Higgins, voted against it, which is good. So did Commissioner McGee and I believe Commissioner Hyman. Rapid transit zoning, I wish it didn't pass at all. As far as the municipalities are concerned, my understanding is that Commissioner Higgins did ask for a type of carve out for the municipalities, but that was not granted. Again, staff and even myself, we're just getting the whole gist of this. I haven't seen the whole thing.
On a vote of 8-3, that's a pretty big.
Yeah,
pretty big
a couple
vote.
Absent people.
And on the south end, obviously, that it affects a bunch of cities that are down there, as well as north end.
That's
so we had
correct.
2 south cities and areas talking about that, and then also up to the north end. So as far as the potential zoning implications for that, as best as you know as of today, what might that mean to the area?
Well, I believe that the ordinance now gives the municipalities up to 2 years to comply with some of this and to come up with a transit zoning area. Now, in a way, we have part of that, which is the downtown part of Palmetto Bay that the last few councils have been working on, and this council and the council before, I believe, have done a good job lowering the heights and the density for that downtown. Now, will that suffice for the county? I don't know. My concern in District 1, where I am, is they're building the station on 136 and other stations. And we have commercial across the street that's B1, B2. And if that got sold, that's within that half mile or quarter mile of a transit station. And if the floor area ratios are higher and somebody bills, that could be a potential problem for my area and for Pinecrest too.
And the floor area ratio is the essence of it. There's going to be more concrete there.
Yeah, the county is allowing more. So again, I don't, the details are sketchy even for staff and have to go through more, but that's my understanding.
So on land that's in the county, they just are making that change themselves.
Yeah.
Where it affects the city is going to present, or the cities are going to present plans. This is what we plan to do. And where is that the station going to be built?
Well, I believe they're building a station right there near 136, and it goes down farther. But like the concern, even for a city like Pinecrest, is like where the Home Depot is on 136 there. If they take that parking lot and they turn it around and they move it to the side and they do a tear down of the side, put a road through that, yes, that's Pinecrest, but we're right across the street. Yeah. So that affects a lot of people, and it's not in a good way.
So it is one of the concepts, is it wherever we're going to have a central station, there's going to be a town center perhaps built around that, so that there'll be places for people to gather.
Yeah, there could be. That's the potential. Yeah. I mean, I wish it wasn't passed at all, and our whole council, unanimously voted, to not to support this.
So people can find out more. They can go online at Miami-Dade.gov or just look it up. RTZ. What does it mean to me?
Yeah, they can speak to our staff. They can call and speak to our city manager and staff. They can speak, I'm sure, to Commissioner Higgins' office to for those in District 8.
And the professionals from around the country, I'm sure, that are involved with this. Listen, Miami-Dade County government, this is what's going to happen here in your county because all the people that are moving here, right? And you need to make arrangements to house these people and to be able to transport them. The county, state, and feds put in $300 million to buy new buses on the west side of US 1 from all the way down to Homestead.
Yeah, bus to rail.
Right.
BRT.
And so part of that is to be able to build housing around there so that people
will use it. Transit.
And so my guess is that there'll be some apartments that are going to be built with minimum parking. So if you move in there, you're not going to get cars, or very few. And if you
and I think that's what they're trying to do.
I don't get it, but there's a whole new generation that may go, listen, we don't need two cars. We need just one, right? Because my husband or wife can get on that and be able to move that. Okay, so that's a big deal for each of the cities.
That's a big deal for all of Dade County.
Yes.
But especially those along the transitway, from Coral in the south, like Coral Gables, South Miami, Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, Color Bay.
And up north, Sally Hammond spoke her piece up there. She's at the north end.
That's correct.
Aventura area.
Aventura, all that, the city municipalities up there.
Okay, so let's get back to Palmetto Bay. There's some land that formerly called the FP&L property. It was purchased by a developer a few years ago. How many acres is that?
I believe it's more or less 60, 70 acres.
It's a pretty big piece of land.
Yeah.
All right. And I know there's a lawsuit going back and forth with that. It's been tied up in litigation for a couple of years, if I remember right. What are you able to say about that?
I can't really go into detail because you're correct. It is in litigation. However, the zoning was changed before I got on the council. I believe Vice Mayor Dubois had put the recommendation or resolution forward in early 2018 to keep the zoning at 1 unit per acre. When I campaigned 4 years ago, I kept my promise and I kept the zoning at 1 unit per acre, and that's where we are now. And again, there is litigation going on, but I stand by what I did when I voted on this, to keep the zoning the way it is. That's what the vast majority of the residents wanted, and it's in my district. And again, we'll see where.
So maybe the next year or two or three that'll be resolved.
Well,
maybe
we'll see.
We'll see, or sooner.
But I
I'm,
mean,
I'm trying to squeeze something out of him.
yeah,
but
well,
we'll
the
see.
zoning's been the zoning's been reaffirmed by the council, even the council right before. I think that was in 2019, actually, I believe. So
One of the bigger issues up until now was the bridging of Palmetto Bay and the surrounding areas to allow transportation going back and forth. Years ago, the commissioner that was in that area, who's now our mayor, didn't need to deal with it, although it was presented to her. And then the Commissioner Higgins, who was recently elected, was for the bridge. All right.
correct.
And so we have people on both sides of that. All right. And so what's the update with that?
Difficult situation, but the update is right now we are waiting for the courts to rule on the county's. The county's wants it dismissed, and it's in court basically based on the process. Not that the county has jurisdiction, they do, but based on what was done. So right now that's in court. Also waiting on the county's motion to.
And that was
waiting on the courts to rule on the county's motion.
So the position of the city seems to have been, we're not saying you don't have a right to do it, but you didn't notice this properly, and we don't like the process. And if
there was there's a lot of questions there. I mean, to me, on my what I believe and what I've seen, and I did the little video going from the bridge on 87th all the way to 141 where it dead ends. You are bringing thousands and thousands and thousands of cars daily into Palmetto Bay. So with limited access out, and I understand the effects on the other side too.
And we know, just like with the RTZ vote, the people that didn't have a lot of pressure voted for it. The people that had pressure on them because the areas said, no, we don't want it to go down like that. But with the
and I will say, excuse me, Mike, the whole council, was unanimous on this. When it came up earlier this year.
So again, with the bridge, if the county said, all right, let's just start the process over again, it doesn't eliminate their right to do that, but it delays it. And sometimes during delay, something happens. It
was, really was approved back in February of what year is this? This is 2020 to February of 21, I believe. So yes. We're almost at the end of the year here. So we shall see what rules out.
So some people obviously want the bridge, and obviously a lot of people don't want the bridge.
That's correct.
And so the city spent time, energy, and money fighting it. And that's a right to be able to do that, all right? And for the people that are against it, they expected the commission to do that. And so my hat's off to the people on both sides, but maybe in the next 6 months to a year, it'll be over. I understand there's still a few people that are not on, people refer to it as city water, but on county water. What are you going to do to try to help these people?
Yeah, we put, this was recent, just in the last few months, the council unanimously again voted to authorized to put aside $2 million for to put in some water mains for those that want it. We're not, forcing it on anybody. We have a group of residents on 143rd Street that actually came forward, and they're on well water for drinking water too. And I guess the concern is now that there could be possible contamination. So they came forward to the city council, and we voted to approve the $2 million to put a water main in there. And then we're also doing a survey village-wide to see if, there's other areas where the money will be set aside where we could put the water mains in if there's enough residents that want to hook up. Again, they don't have to. And if they do, we would put the water main in, and then the resident would then have to connect from the house to the water main. So, I mean, it's clean drinking water. That's what we want. I mean, what more? That's a big service.
Yeah, so. Pinecrest, I think the rest of the residents there are going to get county water.
Yeah.
I live on a farm, and when some of our animals were getting sick, this is years ago, the veterinarian says, don't bring me the animals, just bring me the water. Sure enough. in the water, there was enough in there to make them less resistant, right?
Yeah.
And then they would get these other illnesses, but because they weren't strong enough, because they were fighting off that bacteria.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, it was well worth it when we did it to bring in the county water, and you don't have to think about it again.
It's clean county. It's county water. It's clean. It's sustainability. I mean,
Yes.
That's what it is.
So speaking of water, Palmetto Bay is known for some areas flooding. What is the city doing and going to do to try to prevent that or deal with it?
I pushed a resolution to purchase our own vac truck to remove the water. So now which would pay for itself over a period of years, what we pay to the contractor now. It's available. We'll hire staff. I think we're going to be taking delivery soon. Everything is a little delayed. I'm hoping by maybe next month or the end of next month, we'll take delivery. We have to we'll hire staff for it. And this way we can set our own timetables and clean out flooding. We have an issue in some areas. 178 Terrace is one of them, and some other areas. But I think this is good, and may even need some more, French drains put in. Some of the drains that were put in, and I even give our former manager, Mr. Silva, credit. He worked, to get a lot of that in. Before I got there, and then a little after, and some of those drains may need to be bigger. They may just be too small. Now this summer, it's been extremely dry, so
frequently when an area is flooding, frequently there's debris that sits on top of the drain that slows it down a lot.
That's true.
But that's not the reason for the overflow. It's just too much rain, and the drains are not.
You get too much rain too fast, and in some cases, even on 178 Terrace, maybe the drain is not big enough. So I believe that the city manager is looking even to put another one in over there at some point.
So frequently through neighborhoods, residents tend to always complain, too many cars and they're going too fast. In the city of South Miami, they put in lots of speed
tables.
Is that what they're
Speed
called?
humps, speed tables.
And then circles, and some of them are beautiful here in South Miami. It certainly slows you down a lot.
Yeah.
Right. What's Palmetto Bay going to do to help out?
Well, I will tell you, I go back to 2010. When I knocked on all those doors, by far, the number one issue, that was 12 years ago. I was younger then. But by far, the biggest issue was speeding and traffic through the village. And it is today still. I see that. So we actually have legislation coming forward September 12th to add in those areas for a final approval that the majority of the residents that wanted it, especially in those areas, this is going back a couple of years, to put speed tables in. And I've even recently in my travels through the city, I've found a couple other areas where the majority of the residents on that street want a speed table. That's a big issue because you have all these cars in there. They go too fast. Pets get killed. Hopefully, God willing, no other personal human tragedy. So that's a big issue, speeding and traffic.
So and you're traversing through the neighborhood. Are there roads themselves that need to be fixed? Are there potholes? Are there just old and they're starting to crumble?
Yeah, we talked about this, I think 4 years ago. I wanted to be known as kind of like the pothole city commissioner. And the public.
You can have 4 more years, I suspect.
Well, hopefully. So we do have the Street by Street initiative, which is something that Mayor Cunningham actually came up with several years ago. And that's working pretty good. When I knocked on doors in 2018, we had a street, 87th Court, and it bends around to 159 Terrace. It's hard to remember now. Remember, I was younger 12 years ago. That street wasn't paved in 30 years. And we got it, thanks to our interim manager, Mr. Truitt and Mr. Silva. Previously, we got it done. So that's a big issue for me. When I'm out driving around and I see something, I call it in right away or text the manager, hey, there's a pothole.
I just want to know,
right here.
Sunday morning you're texting?
I'm doing it. 24/7. So
So
that's a big thing, yeah, for me.
All right. So speaking of roads, a few years ago, the village of Palmetto Bay and several other cities enacted an ordinance where people could take golf carts out on the road. So now it's been a few years. What has that been like?
Yeah, we did during my first term, we did approve a resolution to open up more of the area for golf carts. That was, I believe, in 2013 or 2014. And I'm going to say I work with one of the residents, Mr. Heffernan, I guess I could say his name, who's been very helpful and instrumental with the golf cart club. And one of the things, and I was just on a long conference call with the county a few weeks ago, and I am going to make that God willing, we have a final term here, to make that a priority, to open that up more. It does a lot of things with the price of gas and everything, and the mobility will help. There's safety features involved, of course, that the golf carts have to be mandated, a certain way. So, but that's a big issue because they are kind of limited now, but that's on county roads. Not so much on our roads, but to get from one point to another, you have to cross a county road.
So quite frequently people say about motorcyclists, look at them, and they don't have to wear helmets, by the way. All right. But there's no protection. So many people said about the golf carts, and on my response is typically, anybody that drives a motorcycle, rides a motorcycle? Yep. So where's the protection? That's a risk that people need to take if they're going to do that.
Yeah, that's the risk you take too. Bicycle, motorcycle, golf carts.
So we know that there are some lots of cyclists, bicyclists.
Yes, there is.
In Palmetto Bay. There's the famous one down there, I won't say his name, who's out frequently 25 miles a week. Oh, I'm sorry, more than that, 50 or 100 frequently is out, and frequently posts those. So there are people that are actively involved in cycling. As far as lines on the streets of Palmetto Bay for bicyclists, it helps a little bit. All right, it just helps us wake up a little bit.
Yeah, and there are bike lanes, and there is other legislation we're working on with that too. There's a safe routes for school thing that's item legislation that's coming up. We have two big meetings in September, both on the budget.
So there's a cyclist died the other day. The first car went by and hit the handlebars of the guy. All right, and two cars wound up killing this young man. But the point is, when there's a cyclist on the road, even when they're in their zone, it is you who's driving a car. You have to make sure you give them space. All right.
Yeah. Am I correct? And I believe that this is maybe the most dangerous metropolitan area in the country for bicyclists.
I don't know,
and pedestrians.
Okay, but it is a lot, and so for us to scream at the cyclists, no, we're the ones that are going to be responsible. All right, even morally and emotionally. You don't want to be hit, so you need to make sure you stay away.
No,
right?
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
Yeah. So, and speaking of things like that, people in Palmetto Bay, they want parks and lots of police. Tell us about both of those.
Well, in my time, since I've been there 3.5 years, we added a police officer. We added a sergeant. Also, I believe we have 36 officers, not including support staff or command staff, out there on patrol. I have to look. I'm actually meeting with the manager to go over the budget. That may even be increased this time. I've been kind of busy with this RTZ and everything and some personal stuff, but we added a police officer. We added a sergeant. Parks, big thing. We have great parks in Palmetto Bay. We have some improvements that have to be made. We actually just recently put out a bid, and we have a contractor assigned now to fix some of the paths in Coral Reef Park, which need to be fixed. We have pickleball in Coral Reef Park now. We have the softball fields in Palmetto Bay Park. They have to be maintained and be upgraded, but a lot of people come from everywhere to use our parks, And then we have Veterans Park. That'll be coming online in the near future, possibly next year. I believe we're finally getting the the deed from South Motors, which deeded the land over to us. I think that's coming up this month.
How much property is
Also,
that? More or less. What's going to happen
few acres, I
to,
don't
what's going to happen? You're going to make
It's going to be a
What?
veterans park.
oh,
with-
that's where it's going. Okay.
with and from actually at a Parks Committee meeting last night, I serve on two committees now. The Tree Committee, I'm the liaison, council liaison for the Tree Committee, and the council liaison for the Parks Committee. And one of the we do have a Veterans Committee, and I think one of their recommendations, and one of the recommendations I believe from the Parks Committee even last night, was to kind of make it like an interactive. It's a passive park, but many of our young people, Mike, they don't know the sacrifices that, Korea, these are long forgotten wars, even Vietnam at this point, that's years ago. The first Desert Storm, Grenada in 1983, where the sacrifice of our men and women who lost their lives for freedom. Iraq, the second Iraq, Afghanistan. So maybe to make, not plaques, but some type of interactive description, talking about the conflicts that our men and women were in. My dad, fought in Korea, won a Bronze Star and United Nations medal, several other medals. But and many of the, sadly, a lot of these veterans are gone now. There's just few left. So that's a great thing to me. I mean, when you go to Washington, D.C., and you see the wall, the Vietnam Memorial, the Korean Memorial, which is at the bottom of the Lincoln Memorial, it's touching and it's inspirational. And hopefully we can see something like that in the upcoming Veterans Park.
That's great. Again, we have elections coming up in about a month.
Absentee ballots go out in about 30, first week of October.
Yeah.
They'll be
So
out.
Labor Day, which is coming up, it signifies for a lot of people, okay, now it's back to work. Summer's over, even though the kids have been back in school. This is a traditional back to work. And in this case, people really need to decide on who they're going to vote for, not just locally, but everywhere where you have a choice. We urge people to get out and vote. It's important that they vote for the candidate of their choice. Look around. They can find out who best represents them. If people need to reach you and talk with you, where can they do that?
Yeah, they can reach me at, can I look into the camera?
Sure.
Now at 78 Patrick Fiore at 786-200-9344. My campaign email is fiorepatrick63@gmail.com.
Okay.
They can reach me. And I'm also a sitting councilman, so obviously I can be reached.
And there's a number,
If
63.
it's related to the city.
What does the 63 mean? Here you go, folks. You heard it here first.
I'm older than that. No, I don't. Probably when I was 63 when I created that.
Maybe that's what it
that
was.
was probably what it was.
Well,
Yes.
Patrick, thank you for your public service, not
Thank you,
just in
Mike.
Palmetto Bay, but across the county and for the community councils out of West Kendall.
Thank you,
we
Mike.
wish you lots
Always good to be here again
My pleasure.
near a holiday.
Amen.
Again. All
Folks,
right.
thanks for joining us. Again, this is Live with Miami's Community News, and this is Patrick Fiore, Councilman in Palmetto